Mine stops.
All right, I see folks are just starting to show up. We're going to get started in just a minute or so. Give folks another minute, and we'll turn it over to Brian to introduce us.
Thank you.
Hey, folks, I see people coming on in. Get started in a minute.
Yep. Just give us about 60 seconds more. Thanks everyone for your patience. We're going to get started soon. All right, I think we will begin. Thank you everyone for your patience. We're going to get started. Welcome one and all to Mercy University's CERTIFi Spotlight, sharing information about our certificate program in Sexuality Education and Disability, understanding neurodiversity, intellectual disabilities, and sexual health in conjunction with sex ed. So let's just move the slides along, please. I'm Brian Amcrott. I'm a vice president here at Mercy in charge of our division of workforce credentialing and community impact. We sponsor the CERTIFi program. Please, next slide. CERTIFi was developed a couple of years ago to provide an alternative education arm for Mercy University, extending the mission of Mercy to provide access to high quality education that provides skills and credentials that can help individuals advance their careers and their personal enrichment through continuing education. We're pleased for today's program to be partnering with Sex Ed once again. And if you are interested in registering for this program or learning more about any other programs we offer at Mercy University, we please encourage you to go to CERTIFi, that's CERTIFi with an i.mercy.edu, then click on programs, and then you can search for the certificate program in Sexuality Education and Disability, and we encourage you to register. Before we get going with the content for today's session, I want to remind everyone, if you have questions about anything that you hear, anything that you see, or questions about things that you're not hearing and seeing that you're interested in, please put your questions in the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen, and we will get to those later on in the session, or one of our panelists can choose to answer that question on the spot. So I know that you didn't come here to hear from me, so we're going to move things along. Please advance the next slide. Just to give you a sense of the flow of the day, we're going to provide a program overview from Bill and Stephanie, and then when you do have those questions after the formal presentation, we can get to those questions at the very end. So again, thank you for joining us. It's my pleasure to introduce our partner now for over a year in offering these programs, Bill Taverner from Sex Ed. He is the founder of the Sex Ed Lecture Series and editor-in-chief of the American Journal of Sexuality Education. You can read his entire bio here. There's more information about Bill if you go to the Sex Ed website, or if you go to the CERTIFi website and look up information about the program. From our perspective here at Mercy, we're just thrilled to be able to work with folks like Bill and his team at Sex Ed. One of the things we recognize at Mercy is expertise can be found in all sorts of ways. While we are very thrilled to have a great faculty at Mercy University, we're equally thrilled to be able to work with subject matter experts like Bill and Stephanie, who come from other organizations. So this is going to be actually the third offering that we've developed together and made available. We're really pleased that Bill and his team have continued to partner with us on these programs. So I'm going to turn the virtual podium over to Bill. He can introduce Stephanie, talk a little bit more about Sex Ed, and then they'll walk you through the plan for the program that's starting September 3rd. So Bill, take it away.
Thank you, Brian. Hi, everybody. Thank you for organizing this event, Regina and Brian. My name is Bill Tavener. There's a photo of me pre-pandemic before I looked like, before I adopted the John Lennon kind of look. But I'm really happy to talk about the certificate program and to introduce Stephanie. Let me just say a word or two about the Sex Ed Lecture Series first. The Sex Ed Lecture Series started during the pandemic. We've been running for 4.5 years now. It started as a way to have sexuality educators connect and continue learning while the pandemic was going on. And so we started, we've been maintaining weekly lectures every Wednesday, or almost every Wednesday for the last 4.5 years. We've had over 200 sessions so far. And we're just thrilled to be working with Mercy University to offer this certificate program, as well as another certificate program that is just concluding this week with Dr. Tanya Bass, who is running a certificate program on social justice and sexuality education. But I'm going to turn it over to I'm going to introduce Stephanie, someone that I've been colleagues with for many, many years. Stephanie is an expert on sexuality and disability. She's a much sought after keynote speaker, a consultant, trainer. She's based in Montreal and is ASEC certified. And I can't think of anybody more that would be more pleased to have running this program on neurodiversity and disabilities, intellectual developmental disabilities, and sexuality education. So let me turn it over to Stephanie to talk a little bit about the program.
Thank you, Bill. And thank you to Brian and Regina and the whole certified team. So I'm really, really pleased to have been invited to be a part of this course and then to be invited back again for a second year. This will be the second time we're running this, and last year was a wonderful success. And so we're thrilled to be back for a second term. So welcome to everyone who is joining. Please, just to reiterate, if you have any questions, we're happy to answer them for you. Feel free to put up your hand or put them in the chat. And I'm just going to take you through a few slides to give you an overview of what the course covers. And of course, there are times that there are additional topics that come in, but as an overview, the course runs for 4 weeks. In week 1, we basically look at the introduction to sexuality and disabilities. So it'll explore a number of things like assumptions and bias and so on. And then realities and facts around disability, including intellectual disabilities as well as neurodivergence, and how that may or may not impact one's sexuality, and certainly the sexuality education that people receive. In week 2, we look at the tools for teaching sexuality education. So we start jumping into how do we develop tools? How do we adapt tools? What are some of the ways that we can work with this population to maximize strengths and also deal with some of the subjects that are really important for people who are either neurodiverse or have intellectual disabilities so that they get included in the sexuality education. In week 3, we continue sexuality education, but we really shift to look at enriching relationships. So we start looking at things like, why are relationships important, intimacy, sexuality, gender, identity, and also the relationship that caregivers and parents have to their children. And sometimes that, is really positive, and sometimes it can be a bit of a barrier around sexuality education. So we begin to explore all of that and how to work with it. And then in week 4, we continue into overcoming some more of those barriers to sexuality education and how do we move forward. We also explore in this chapter, and this week, we look at sensory profiles and how that affects sexuality as well, and then how we can bring this all together so that we can leave the course and start implementing sex education for these populations in our organizations. So the next slide, please, Bill. Thank you. The course has a really great structure to it in that it combines the best of both worlds, we think. So the asynchronous as well as the synchronous together. So for folks who are not familiar with this terminology, asynchronous means that there is content that you will learn on your own time, which is really great for people who are managing, multiple jobs or hours at work or family or caregiving or all of the above. So this is something you can do on your own time. And it does take the form of, there will be 3 per week, approximately 1 hour videos that I'll introduce you to next. That'll give you the lecture material for the week. And then we will come together for the synchronous part, which means the live part. We will come together twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays in the evening for an hour and a half at a time to discuss the content of those videos you watched. Plus, I will give additional material by way of a lecture, and we will have discussions and activities together. So you will do part of it on your own, and then you'll come together with the rest of the group so that we can discuss that and add on to the information. So what are the lectures that we look at each week? Thanks, Bill. We'll go to the next slide. These lectures do come from the Sex Ed series that was discussed, and these lectures are really a collection of expertise from various disciplines and various perspectives. And what we've done is we've chosen the ones that really fit these subjects. So the first one that you will watch happens to be, ironically, one that I gave, and it's only because it focuses on autism. This was actually one of the first webinars that was done during COVID, right? As Bill said, this started during COVID. So I may be a little green on camera, but this one focuses specifically on autism and sex ed. You will also watch in that week the neurobiology of trauma and applications for sex education. The speaker is Nishita Raghu. And then you'll also watch sex education through a neurodiversity lens, and the speaker is Dr. Matt Zakreski. And so the point here is that you can watch all 3 back to back, or you can space them out as you wish. We will talk about all of them by the end of the week, but you will do it at your own pace. Week 2, please. In week 2, we will go to the tools for teaching sexuality. The lectures include a talk by Ali Krofsky Manella, so accessible sex education, and then a talk by Catherine McLaughlin, which is on developmental disabilities and sexuality. And then the last one is Going Around in Circles, which is about the Circles program, which is widely used in talking about sexuality and disabilities, and that's given by Dr. Brooke Fott and Leslie Walker Hirsch. In week 3, talking about relationships, there will be a talk on pleasure, which is given by Brianne Lewis. There'll be a talk on sexuality education, training for parents for children with disabilities, and that's by Dr. Deborah Rooks and Dr. Nicole Akey. And then we will also look at supporting parents as the primary sex educators for their children, and that will be by Linda Sandman and Katie Frank. In week 4, we will tie it all together with moving forward and overcoming additional barriers. So the first talk is on barriers to sex education, a disability perspective by Anna Catherine Oley and Amy Shapley. The next talk is making sexual health education accessible to people with intellectual and developmental disabilities by Dr. Elizabeth Schmidt. And our final talk is Pleasure is Not a Dirty Word, and the speaker there is Laura Pace. So as you can see, there's a wide range of talks that will be given throughout this course, and then we will come together as a group and add to that. So I certainly am happy to answer any questions on the content if there is any, and I hope that we get to see you in the group soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. Just a reminder, here is some step-by-step information. I see that also posted in the chat is a direct link. And everyone who signed up for the webinar that we're running right now will receive this information again. So you'll get an email, follow-up email that includes this direct link. Reminder, it is a 4-week program starting September 3rd. The total registration fees are $14.95. That encompasses everything you get for the program. The last time we ran this, we really had a full cohort. And as Bill said, the session we're running now on social justice has been a full group. So we encourage people to sign up early and reserve a spot. Stephanie, I just want to ask a couple of questions that we often get. about about a program like this. If someone is coming without formal prior education on this space, will they feel comfortable? Is this still appropriate for them?
Yeah, it's a great question. The platform that we use has a number of resources included, and so it really takes the course and the content from a basic level. So the assumption is that most people may not have lots of information in this area, or certainly equal amounts. So it is designed for people who are beginning in the area of sexuality, or beginning in the area of disabilities, or sort of the intersectionality of both. And then as the course progresses, it gets a little bit more advanced as people sort of get on the same page. So we absolutely welcome folks who are just starting in this field, and this class is really designed for those people.
Fantastic. Another question that we often get is, what happens if you can't make every single one of the live synchronous sessions?
That's a great question. So it's something that we talked about last year as well. We think that attendance for most is important, because it's a question of a matter of hours and discussion, but we take it case by case. So we invite people to talk to us. Maybe there's a way of making it up. Maybe there's a way of working around it. So we want to stress that attendance is important. It's only 4 weeks, and it's twice a week for an hour and a half. But we also understand that life happens, right? And things happen. And so there's a certain level of flexibility built into that.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, we allow for up to 2
Yes.
absences, right?
Yes, correct. Exactly.
If I may, the other thing that I think folks may be interested in knowing is that in addition to getting a certificate from Mercy University CERTIFi program, folks will also get 24 hours of credit from ASECT. So that's something that for those of you pursuing your ASECT certification or your certification renewal, that can be valuable. And I also want folks to note that since we ran this course once before, and the feedback was very, very positive, but there were also some suggestions about how we can continue to improve. So one of the things that we did was we took a critical look at the asynchronous learning and the selection of the different recordings, and looked at what were which were the webinars that had the lowest ratings, and where people said, this is kind of duplicative information. And we swapped in some new lectures to freshen it up a little bit and expand the definition of what we're covering with sexuality and disability.
And Bill, I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. If I'm coming from an organization that might have a few people interested, are there opportunities for groups and to get some sort of discount that way?
I think the answer is yes, right?
Yes.
Yeah, just that. I think there's an email. Is there an email address on the registration page? Or if there's not, folks can reach me at bill@sexedlectures.org, and I'll coordinate with Brian and Regina. I want to mention Regina. Regina is just a magician, doing so many things behind the scenes, and we're so thankful for all of your work, Regina. But just reach out to one of us, and we'll figure something out for a group.
And Regina, perhaps you can post the general info email as well in the chat for folks to see.
I love the idea of a group attending, because it's the kind of content that you can then chat about, at work as well, and discuss how to implement it. So, our hope is that folks leave these sessions and then go and implement the tools that you'll gain, in your organizations. So groups are a great idea.
And is there a different takeaway, let's say, for someone who's just, a private practitioner, with their own clients, as opposed to people who do work in organizational settings?
You mean for like in individual practice, or working one-on-one with folks, as opposed to like in group settings?
Yeah.
Stephanie, do you want to speak? I can say observationally that I thought that there was just so much knowledge when I attended last semester, the last offering, where there was general knowledge combined with applicability. But even when we were talking about, group style lesson plans and such. There was just so much to take in working with working with a client one-on-one, applications for if you have a family member, a child, with an intellectual developmental disability, autism, special needs, and of some type. I found that the applications were diverse. That was my take. But Stephanie, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts to the question is that no, I think that they apply across the board to various settings, because as Bill's saying, there's a collection of knowledge, and then there's a collection of tools that we provide. But in a lot of cases where people, or populations with various needs, the groups tend to be much smaller, or they tend to be focused more on one-on-one. That's been my experience. So, but I think it's applicable, across various settings.
And this isn't a question, but just a comment, because we did have this the last time we ran the session. One of the virtues of being able to use a virtual platform when we're teaching is that we had folks coming from all over the world, actually, expressing interest and then ultimately registering. So you shouldn't feel like this is just a New York-centered program, or even just an American-centered program.
Yeah, no, actually, we didn't even say that, but I'm Canadian, folks. I don't know if that,
That's right.
makes a difference. I don't. Maybe we forget that. I'm from Montreal, so, and I have to share with you, there are a few students that still reach out to me from time to time from that class. There was one student from Montreal, and we'll speak on occasion. There was also a student from Punta Cana, from Dominican Republic. And she wanted to work with me to translate some of the materials into Spanish, for her groups. And so there's a lot that comes out of it afterwards. So no, because this is virtual, we have people from all over the world, and we certainly welcome that. We had quite a few people from Canada and other countries last time as well. So absolutely welcome.
So I'm not seeing any questions popping up in the Q&A. So I do want to make one last call for anyone who does have them to put them in right away, so we don't miss you. Obviously, if there's something you wanted to ask but didn't want to ask it in the public forum, you've got the email for CERTIFi that Regina put in, or Bill, you can remind everyone the email to write to you directly.
Yeah, certainly. I'm also going to pop in another link where folks can find more general information about both offerings. We're planning to repeat Dr. Bass's program on social justice in the spring, so you can find out information about that program as well at this link. And then my address is Bill. I'll type it in now. There we go.
All right. So, I mean, I don't know, Stephanie, Bill, any last words for today? Obviously, as I said, you will get a reminder about registration opportunities. We did record the session today, so if you know of other folks that are interested in just reviewing this webinar, please be in touch with us, and we can try to make it available to them as well. But I'll say my thank you to all our panelists and our participants. Bill, Stephanie, just the last, any final sign off from your end?
I'd just like to say I hope that I see you in this class, and I look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Yeah, just delighted to be working with all parties here, and look forward to the next course offering, which begins in a month.
Hope to see you all there. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Take care, everybody.